In our continuing series on the Trotec rotary attachment, today's lesson is going to take a look at how to do a rolling pin. The reason I picked a rolling pin is because most designs on rolling pins have to go all the way around the circumference on the pin itself. So basically both ends of the artwork will match up together. And getting this to work takes a little bit of practice and precise measurements, because even if you're off a little bit, you could theoretically have a gap between where the two pieces of artwork come together. So it's very important that we sort of measure everything properly and we take our time when we're doing this. So we need to figure out two things on the rolling pin. One is going to be the length of our working area this way, and the other is the working area on the actual rolling pin itself in terms of the circumference. As we've talked about in previous videos, I can either measure the circumference out, or in the case of this, I find it easier to do the diameter and then just multiply by pi, and that gives me the circumference. So if I measure this out in terms of the diameter, what we're looking at here is 1.97. Okay, and our length is about 9.75, 9.8. Normally what I typically try to do on the art, I normally will have the art come a little bit farther this way and a little bit farther this way, and they'll get a little bit of a wrap design on this chamfered edge here. And I use this technique a lot. If you ever watched my video on the guitar, I did the same thing. I actually extended the image past the sides of the guitar just so that I could make sure that I got right to the edge. Because if you don't, if your measurement is off a little bit, if you've got a little bit of a outside extra area here, then sometimes it'll compensate for that miscue in your measurement. Okay, I would think probably most, if you measure one rolling pin and you're getting the same batch, they should all be the same size. But if they're off a little bit, then certainly having a little bit of extra area on the ends will certainly help out. But it's critical that you get the diameter right, because we need these things to match up. The artwork needs to match up. Now what I've done on the one that I'm going to actually etch, you can see I placed the artwork. I printed the artwork out and then I've basically printed it out. So I can see visually that my art is going to fit all the way around on the rolling pin. So the nice thing about doing this, as you can see, is that it takes away any of the anxiety that you may have in terms of doing this pin and it doesn't match up. Because if it doesn't match up, you got to throw it out, right? Your customer isn't going to want a rolling pin where they've got a big line down here, so when they're rolling the dough out or whatever, you've got that line there which affects the image that's being created. So again, this is quite a quick technique just to sort of make sure that your measurements are right, your setup is right, and you print it out. I've taped it on here. You can see that the seams are pretty well perfect. So again, I'm not going to have any issues measuring that out. Okay. So let's take a look at how to do the rolling pin. Just one thing to point out before I get on with the video. You'll notice that the rolling pin that I'm going to do actually has masking on, and I put it on here for two reasons. The first, a lot of times we'll put masking on here to protect any staining that may happen when the laser is etching the wood. If you've got the transfer mask on here and you etch through it, a lot of times you can just take the mask off and everything's clean. Now I've left the two ends here empty with no mask so that we can peel this off and we can sort of take a look and see the difference in terms of the masked area and the non-masked area. The other thing I've done on here, which is very important, and will show you exactly how powerful the Trotec software is I've marked a line here with a pen, okay? And what the job control software is going to allow me to do is I can place the artwork on the laser desktop, and then I can turn this. I can start here at the top of the page where the artwork is and snap the artwork up to the top. You've seen me do this in the previous videos. And again, I can turn this all the way like this, all the way around till I get to the end of the artwork. And if I get to the end of the artwork, then the red dot pointer should line back up with that blue line. Okay, and you can do that in the job control software. Pretty slick. Again, just a second way of making sure that we're going to get the artwork properly placed on this rolling pin. So here's my setup in Corel Draw. I've placed a picture of the rolling pin in here. I've indicated the length, the diameter, and circumference. And sometimes this is good. A good technique to use when you're using a template file, because this gives the you or the operator information about that rolling pin. A picture's in here so that they can visually see that they're using the right rolling pin for this particular template job, and it's indicating the circumference and the diameter. So again, sometimes it's good to put this stuff in here, and sometimes I like to leave it in there for a template job. If I select this here, and we just go Shift F4, it comes in on the page size. You notice that my artwork is set up. You notice here that my dogs do extend past the page, which isn't a big deal, because when we print it, that will be cut off. I could also use a power clip on here, and again, I can show you how to do that. The one thing to remember here, though, is you notice here that the end of my dog here reflects the other side here. So I am cutting off the rear end of the dog here, so that rear end has to be showing up here, just to give it some symmetry. And again, you notice here the dog starts here in terms of full feature of the dog, and then I've got the paw and the heart here, and again it ends here. So again, these are some things that you need to remember when you're creating your template, if you want that symmetry in the actual rolling pin file. And I would think probably this is probably a good technique to use. I've seen pictures of rolling pins. Sometimes people don't use this technique, but again, this is certainly something to consider. Now we can cut all this information off here if we want, and that's quite easy to do. We can use a power clip. What I want the power clip, the outside of the power clip needs to reflect the page size that I'm working with. And I can create a rectangle based on the page size by double clicking on the rectangle here. So if I double click, now I've got an actual rectangle here that reflects the size of the page. I just made it black. And so again, I can use that to create the box based on the size. Now what I want to do is I'm going to zoom out here, and I'm going to take my artwork and just make sure that you don't select the page here. You could actually, if you wanted to, you could right click on here and just lock it out so you can't select it. So if I lock it out, that allows me now to select everything here, and then I can come down and unlock this rectangle here. So now that I've locked out the rectangle, I want to take my dogs and I'm going to hold the control key down, and I'm just going to move up this so it goes straight up. And what I want to do is I want to take this and unlock it, and I want to select these, and I want to go to Object, Power Clip, place inside the container, and then there's my job. And you'll notice if we look here, because when you do a power clip, it basically goes to the center of the rectangle. So everything is set up properly in terms of what I want. But you can see here the dog is reflecting the other side here, and we've got the dog's head starts here and the bottom starts here, or ends here. Okay, so everything is symmetric. It's ready to go, and then basically we can send it off to the laser. The only other thing typically that I'll do is I've got the power clip rectangle selected. I'm just going to right click on here. That's going to get rid of that object there, just in case it doesn't happen to be you know, a .001, like a hairline, and that will accidentally engrave in the job, which I don't want it to do. So I've gotten rid of that. The only other thing I need to do now is I need to take my job and I need to turn it 90 degrees, because remember, when we want it to go lengthways, and when we bring in the job control is basically going to turn it 90 degrees, and I want my page to do that too. So I'm going to do that. Again, everything is in the center. I'm going to go File, Print. And I go to my preference. And you can see I've got the rotary attachment is set up for the diameter, and the height happens to be the width of the rolling pin, and there's my circumference right there. And then I can hit the OK button, and then I can just basically hit the File, Print. I now have my my rolling pin situated in my cone setup here on the laser machine. Now, one thing to notice is that the problem with the cone systems for the roller here is that this roller will be too far in here, and then I won't be able to engrave part of the pin on the end here. So what I did was I measured out the size of this cone here, which is almost 4 inches, and then I've cut this piece of acrylic, and that will be the outside, and then I've actually got I measured the inside part of the rolling pin, and that's going to fit into here. So I basically fit this in here. Now the pin sticks out from the cone here, and it's in its perfect position. And again, if you're doing this on a regular basis, again, you could just tape this in if you wanted to. A lot of times it's quite easy just to stick that in the end of the rolling pin and then just press it up, use the pressure and just press it up against there, and it'll turn properly. Okay, so I've done that basically to bring out the rolling pin away from the cone, so the edge of the cone doesn't get in the way. The only thing you got to make sure is that you know, if you are going to go beyond here, again, if you want to hit this has to be clearing on the edge here. And again, I can do that just to check. You can see that it's going to clear that, and I don't have to worry about it hitting. I've made a plus symbol here, and the plus symbol basically is my dash that I created. And also this signifies the center of my actual pin itself. So again, just like anything, what I'm looking to do here is I'm looking to create something that's template driven, so that next time I do a rolling pin, all I need to do is I've got a Corel Draw job set up properly, and now I need to make sure that my job control is set up. I've set what I've done is I pressed F8, and I've created a marker here in the plate here, so again my artwork can snap to that, so it's basically in the middle. And again, there's a couple of ways, a couple of things we can do to check this out to make sure everything is set properly. I'm going to bring this over to the edge here just to make sure, and if I zoom in on here, you can see that I'm right at the edge, so I know I'm going to be perfect there. And again, if I want, I can bring this all the way over to here, and let's zoom back out again. And you can see I'm right on the edge there. So again, my artwork is set up properly. The only other thing I've got to make sure is that my turn is proper. So again, I've got that there. Let's activate my laser machine. Just take it out of suspend mode. And I'm going to use the bottom arrow here. And I'm going to turn this around. And I want to make sure that that comes up, which it does. And again, if I look on here, you can see I'm at the bottom of my artwork. So again, I'm ready to go. Everything's looking pretty good. So again, let's run the job, and let's make sure that it goes all the way around and etches up for us. So I'm going to take my masking off. Just want to be careful on this, so let's bring this back up. And again, you don't have to worry about doing any of this masking, because once we've got the template set up, then we don't have to worry about anything. Take this off. And I'm going to bring this back to the starting position. because again, like I said, it's not that big of a deal where we start. But like I said, I don't like the job to, you know, the head to be halfway down the bed, and then when it activates, it's got to go all the way back up to the top of the table, and then, you know, I want it to start directly at the top of the page, so there's no turn on the rolling pin, and that just basically, you know, sometimes, you know, if you have got something heavy there, it could slip or whatever if there's too much turn. So again, always bring it up to the top, and then basically we're going to start doing our engraving. So let's send the job over. So you can see basically that I'm getting a good engraving here. I apologize, I did say I was going to leave the masking on there so you can see how clean it is. Maybe what we'll do is we'll run another one, and one with masking and one without, and we'll take a look at them that way. So you can see that, again, you know, you've got to be a bit careful because we are getting to the edge of the cones and everything like that. So again, you know, this is certainly something that you have to take into consideration. We do sell a chuck system, and we also do sell the roller system that can go along with this. And again, if you want to use the roller, then that basically you'll get the clearance that way. The biggest problem with rollers sometimes is, again, things can slip. It's not positive in terms of it's coming all the way back. So again, just something to consider when you're setting it up. Again, I like to use the cone system. Certainly the chuck system, if it will open up enough and hold on to it, then again, that's good too. So again, you can use that. So you can now see that I'm done my job, and really all I need to do now is just release this, like this back. Again, I can reuse these if I want, and there's my image. So you can see a little bit of discoloration going on here because I didn't mask this. Again, what we'll do at the end here, I'll just take a small sandpaper block, and that should clean that up pretty easily. Okay. Well, there's my finished rolling pins there. Again, this one was done with the masking. I still had to do a fair bit of sanding after the fact and cleaning it. So again, I don't really know if masking is really the way to go with the rolling pins. In this case anyways here. This one here, basically all I ended up doing was I used just a damp J-cloth and came up perfect. So I must admit that probably the damp J-cloth is probably the best tool to keep this, get the residue off the pin itself. But again, you can see here that I've matched up perfectly. All the images are clear. I've got a little bit of overlap here, which is quite nice. I like to do that. You can't really tell where I started and where I stopped because everything is perfectly symmetrically done all the way around the actual pin itself. Well, that's it for showing you how to go all the way around on an actual item and match up on the other side. Again, I've done this a number of times. I like to do it on glass. Again, I'm not an expert on doing rolling pins or anything like this. I just happened to grab one and thought I'd give it a try and see if I could match up. And as you can see, it's not too hard to do. Maybe one day I'll do a video on matching up for glass. But again, it's really a matter of you measuring things out exactly. The beauty of job control is that I can use the red dot pointer and I can make sure that I'm lining my artwork up properly. And that's really the most important thing because, you know, when you look at something like this, every rolling pin is the same. The problem I found with glass is that, if you get cheap glass, the problem is that the diameters the circumferences are a little bit off. So you got to be really careful when you're doing something like a full wrap design on a piece of glass. It's certainly something that you got to be a little bit more careful with, and a lot of times you may need to spend a bit more time getting it set up properly and going through that lineup procedure that I showed you how to do with the line on the masking. You may have to do that all the time on the glass, because again, unless you want to measure every glass and make sure that you get glasses that are similar in diameter, or in that case circumference, and you may have to charge more for doing the glass. But again, just remember that it's easy to do with job control. If we think about this a little bit, then it's very easy to do. And the nice thing about it is, once you understand how to do it and you get a template set up, anytime I go to do another one, it's pretty straightforward. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. I've left the link to the files that I've used today in the comments field, so go ahead and grab something in the show notes if you want to practice with what I've done. And if you like the video, please check the like. Helps promote the videos, and if you want to get access or get notified when more videos come out, click on the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. Anyways, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email to one of the emails that I've left in the show notes. And again, I'm more than happy to try to do a video that would help out some issues that maybe you're having. Anyways, have a good day. Happy lasering.